Hey guys, welcome to TST Garage. I'm Bart, and in this episode, I have no bike in the shop with me. Why is that? Well, I took a trip to Italy to go visit EICMA and see all the new motorcycle technology that's coming out for 2025. I got to see a lot of cool things, a lot of interesting new bikes, new technologies. One thing really caught my eye. Suzuki Motor Corporation has ended a 25-year streak of producing the DRZ-400 platform and replaced it with a new one they call the DRZ-4. This comes in two different variants, the S and the SM, one being a dual sport, the other being its supermoto brother. So why kill off a model that has been successful for 25 years? Well, many reasons. The ones that I can pinpoint myself are mainly around the world, we have tightening restrictions on emissions, and this older bike was a carbureted model designed 25 years ago. It really didn't meet all of the restrictions that are coming up around the world in all the markets, so Suzuki had to kind of chop it away from several markets, limiting them to how many of these units they can sell. Now, all the tooling for all the parts that they make for this bike is already paid off, and it was basically just keep on making them in different colors, and all good because it has a crazy cult following. Why? It's an awesome bike, awesome all-around bike. People really enjoy this thing, but at some point you got to throw it away and make some progress. And I think, I have to tip my hat to Suzuki. I think they did a great job with the replacement. Why? Let's go through the list. MSRP is not known yet, so we can't really see what all this new tech is going to cost. The older model, I believe the MSRP for 2024 was $7,800 and $7,200 SMS respectively. We'll see where they stack up when the new model becomes available with the pricing. I'm predicting that it's going to be similar pricing. The CR300L that we bought from Honda, it jumped up maybe $500 in price when they switched from the previous generation to the new one. I anticipate that switch over price increase to be similar to what Honda did. That's just a hunch. We'll see what happens. Let's run through some specs. I'm not really going to dive into great detail because Suzuki lists all of the specifications very concisely. I'm just going to go through what I found to be very interesting about this model. And let's talk about styling real quick. The old bike was clearly designed 25 years ago. It had a square headlight and very blocky old style stuff happening. On this new bike, all new electronics package, all new lighting package, all LED. This bike has very stylish new bodywork. They're going to be launching this bike with 4 new colorways, 2 per variant. So the S is going to get 2 colorways and the SM is going to get 2 colorways. They're very sharp looking bikes, especially from the front, because that new headlight, the single projector headlight, makes it look very modern. It also has new switch boxes on the handlebars and also a nice new LCD screen that really brings it into the modern world. So the bore and stroke of the bike remains the same, although the piston has changed and the head was also revised with different ports and several different changes to the geometry of the combustion chamber. The resultant compression ratio is 0.2 lower than the previous. It's at 11.1 to 1 compression. We'll see what that does to the power output. I won't be commenting on any power output because none of what the factories say actually holds up to what we see in the real world. So we'll wait for that, for the model to launch. We'll strap it to our dyno once we get one in here, and then we will follow up with another video reporting to you what the power output actually is. We'll post some dyno charts. We'll have some fun with that. The valve train has also been revised. The bike gets a whole new camshaft set with higher lift to the valves. Valves are now titanium, and the valve actuation produces less overlap, so it'll likely have a smoother power delivery. The induction is fed by a new fuel injection system. I mentioned before that the previous bike had a carburetor. It was a 36mm bore carburetor. Now, the new bike features 42mm throttle body throat. We'll see what that does. It is a larger opening. It is potentially gonna be able to breathe easier. We'll see. Maybe we will get a nicer power output while still maintaining a good efficiency. The bike does get get ride-by-wire for this generation. Why is that important? Well, now we could have different rider modes. Throttle-by-wire senses what the rider is telling the ECU the rider wants and translates that to throttle body butterfly opening based on the conditions and based on the demand by the rider. Which means if you're in a slide and you want TCS to kick in, well, the traction control system will take away some of the torque delivered to the rear wheel via closing up the throttle a little bit, potentially retarding the ignition a little bit. We will see what this particular model does. I'm excited to test it out in the dirt. That is really where I'll get to put it through its paces and see how this TCS works. There are 4 different levels that you could switch through the left switch box on the handlebar, accessible right around the perimeter of your left hand. I think that'll be good to have that on the fly. You get into some really slippery conditions, you switch it off, or you switch it to a different mode, and then you could keep going without much time loss. I'm gonna move on to transmission now. I found that very interesting. Instead of going to 6-speed versus the previous generation having only 5-speed, Suzuki decided to keep a 5-speed configuration, revise the shafts so that they are more efficient through less drag against oil, and they revised the gear ratios just a little bit. Now the transmission is coupled through a slip assist clutch, which is great because as you're downshifting in possibly slippery conditions, you don't want that back to be hopping. The slip assist will enable you to have a smoother transition from a higher gear to a lower gear. If you're not used to blipping, then that will really help you out. If you're used to blipping, that'll probably just make it even smoother yet. In the chassis area, Suzuki did revise the entire frame. Now it's split into 2 pieces. You have the rear subframe, which is made of aluminum, and the front subframe is made of steel and chromoly. The new main frame component is said to provide better handling capability on this bike because it is stiffer in the torsional planes, so it'll limit some of the twisting when you're trying to apply an input, and the input will be more translated to more actual direction change, and whatever you're trying to do will be more planted to the ground. Suzuki did outfit this bike with all new suspension all around. I believe KYB is the manufacturer for front and rear, or at least the front. I'm not gonna get into that too much. The specs are available at Suzuki.com. One exciting thing about the chassis changes is that they have gone up in size on the brakes. The previous generation bike had quite a small front rotor, and now they've gone up by 20 millimeters in diameter, so that will translate to better braking and smoother application of brakes, more variable brakes, really. That's really what counts. The rear brake is also larger. Both calipers are different. The bike does come with a modern electronic LCD dash. I like the fact that for a dual sport and a supermoto, they didn't go with a TFT dash and burn funds that all that cost is gonna get passed on to you guys. They just went with a simple LCD screen that accomplishes the job, has giant characters, and you could see from basically anywhere in the cockpit. ABS is standard on all these bikes. I typically don't like ABS because I grew up not riding on ABS bikes. For this particular bike, it is switchable on the rear only. Now, we've had another bike like this in here. I believe it was the KLX 230. We were able to shut off the rear on the ABS and the front remained active. But I know on the road, it probably is very helpful in case you're going around gravel, sand, loose debris, water, whatever it is, it will probably help you during braking. So why not keep it in place and just shut it off in the rear when you need to go into a slidey situation. Now, the claim weight of these bikes is somewhere between 330 and 340. I don't know if that's wet or dry. I am assuming curb weight. These are just specs that I found from Suzuki. There's not much info to be had just yet. When we get one of these bikes in, we'll weigh it. But right off the bat, I know that this is a competitive platform within the space as far as the weight goes. And I saw a lot of very bulky elements right from the factory on this bike. So once I get this bike in and I start configuring it for our use, it'll probably drop off maybe 30 pounds, maybe 35. We're gonna try to find some weight to take off because these bikes are so much more fun when they're lighter, but because of how factories have to outfit them for safe road use, they just have to put all that stuff on. So there will be a whole aftermarket opening up for this bike. If If you guys are privy to Thumper Talk and all the different companies that currently offer aftermarket support for the 25-year-old platform, I mean, there are just endless parts for this bike. We at tstindustries.com want to jump in the market right away. We're going to get one of these bikes as soon as it's available. We're going to start developing parts. We're going to start with the lighting package because I know you guys want an integrated taillight and a fender eliminator and signals. So we're going to start with that, and then we're going to move into some performance parts. We'll just play with this bike just like we have been with our GSX-8R and GSX-8S platforms, and we'll see what shakes out. You know, we have an R&D department that loves making new parts for these bikes, and I'm passionate about these bikes. So we're gonna be putting some effort into it, and we're gonna outfit these bikes with some cool new TST stuff. So I hope you guys can check us out at tstindustries.com. Check out our videos for other bikes you may have interest in. I wanna thank you for watching. See you later, peace.